Hi there, I'm Machine Pun Kelly, and today I want to talk to you about this story that broke yesterday and has the whole country and even the whole world buzzing. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans by Jeffrey Goldberg. And we'll get back to this article later. I want to walk through it and read to you some of the things that are in it. I highly recommend that everybody read this article in its entirety and not just, follow up on what other people have said about it. But I still wanted to talk about it today. And I want to do two things. One, there are a lot of just absolutely hysterical takes on this. And so I'm going to go through some of the funny takes, and then I'm going to talk about this seriously. And what happened is I was talking to a friend of mine, or, I posted a joke on Facebook, and a friend of mine said, I don't know whether to post the laughing emoji or the crying emoji or the angry emoji. And I get that. It's like, this is so funny. It's sad. It's so upsetting. It's funny. It's like, you almost have to laugh at it just to process it. But we'll go through and get into the serious stuff. But first, I just want to talk about some of the funnier takes. And so last night on both Twitter and Blue Sky, I asked people to post their links to their favorite Peter Hegsbeth jokes. So these are some of the ones that I thought were pretty funny. It's pronounced Peter Hegsbeth, because he's drunk and always has the hiccups. Strictly Christo, good friend of mine, on good social media friend. I'm the dumbest man alive. I texted secret military plans to bomb Houthi rebels to an Atlantic reporter in a signal chat. Okay, you're clearly dumber. Can I have a drink now, please? So, yeah. A lot of these jokes involve alcohol because the entire thing involved alcohol. I saw someone refer to him as Whiskey Leaks, like WikiLeaks, but Whiskey Leaks. I like that one. From Jasmine Crockett's future best friend there. This one, if you remember, like in the 80s when they came out with those chat numbers where you'd call and talk to people. I think this is a screenshot from one of those things. Anyway, me in the National Security Group chat. That's pretty funny. Do you remember those? I remember those. Before we begin, is anyone here an investigative reporter? From now on, everyone in the White House chat. It's just mind-blowingly stupid. But Simpsons, once again, nailing it. Who made this? So this one is not... Bridget didn't come up with this, but she shared it. I don't always include reporters in unsecure war plan group chats. But when I do, it's because I'm incompetent and drunk. So... going back to the most interesting man in the world meme. This one I love. Jeffrey Goldberg in the group chat. Can you guess which one Jeffrey Goldberg is? Was he drunk at the time? It's a loaded question, because he's loaded. So it's a loaded question. I like that one. You may have noticed that I have a thing for puns. Peter Hegsbeth has learned his lesson by Susan Collins, which is actually, this was one of those times where I feel sorry for the New York Times pitchbot, because sometimes he will make a joke and then it ends up not being a joke because 2 hours later, Susan Collins says that she's seriously troubled or something like that. Typical Susan Collins reaction. Oh, she's concerned or deeply concerned about the fact that somebody actually nearly the biggest. I would say that it's not. This is anyway. When we get to the serious part of it, I'll get into that. But this is something to be more concerned about, or just to have words about. So here's Putin looking at his phone. Wait, guys, Pete Hegsbeth is typing. You know how it shows the little... I just accidentally sent my plans for the apocalypse to an editor at the Atlantic. So that's God. Keeping Hegsbeth in his current role would be a whiskey move. Okay, I admit it. This one's mine. Get it? It would be a whiskey move. And I had another pun too. Hegsbeth didn't intend to share war plans with 5 other people on Signal. It was only supposed to go to 4 people, but his assistant misunderstood when he said, "Get me a 5th!" Like a 5th of Jack. All right, so here's one. Tim Waltz had one. I would like to nominate Maxwell Smart for National Security Advisor. I don't think that's doesn't play. Anyway, post a link to your favorite. All right, so Peter Hegsbeth just texted me about Fight Club. You know, there's some because the only rule about Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. All right, this one is DC Drano. I guess this guy drinks Drano or something. I don't know why he calls it. Very interesting how this signal situation was leaked right before all these congressional hearings so that Democrats could scold Trump's administration. A part of me wonders if this was a deep state setup. This is such a dumbass reaction that Ron Flapowski, who I love as a follow, by the way, it was Soros. You know, like you knew it was just a matter of time before they find some way of blaming the Democrats for this. Like, yeah, how would exactly this work out, Mr. Drano? Like, is J.D. Vance a closet Democrat or something? Like, I have no idea. And then this one, so this is an actual screenshot of the conversation that's in the article. VP, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. So it says VP here and it's vice president, but I would like some assurance here that VP Vance Hegsbeth is referring to is not Vladimir Putin, which, you know, I think that's fair assessment there. Pete Hegsbeth is messy. You up? We're bombing Yemen tomorrow. Bad legal takes. This one is bad legal takes is a good follow. Jeffrey Goldberg should be charged for treason if he accidentally came across like somehow he just came across it, like, yeah, classified material, and he leaks it to the world instead of telling the proper authorities he didn't leak anything classified. That by definition is treason. Prosecute Jeffrey Goldberg. So really now it's Jeffrey Goldberg's fault because you're responsible for who includes you in a signal, and it's not the people's fault that included him in the signal and shared the classified information. It's his fault for being included and receiving it. Oh, this is just okay. Oh, this one I love. This one is I saved some of the best ones for last. So this is Mike Houston, tariffs. Mike in Houston. Text stop to unsubscribe from war plan updates. That's just I forgot to favorite that one. That one is just classic. That's comedy. Okay. Dear Pete Paula Poundstone. Dear Pete Hegsbeth, we have a lot in common. I shouldn't be Secretary of Defense either. And it's like, yeah, I'm like, can we have the DEI guy back? Because, you know, he was actually qualified. And then I think this one has gotten the most retweets, the most likes. Christopher Snyder. Who is Christopher Snyder? Maybe I should follow him. Anyway, new phone. Who this? Because it's, you know, like they bombed Huth, and it's, you know, got a phone thing. So anyway, that one's classic. That's like internet winner right there. Okay, so we're just going to close all these out, and we're going to go back to the Amazon article. Now that you had a little humor poorly delivered by myself, I will get into the serious nature of this after I read the article. Because while it's funny, it's also incredibly dangerous. And if you're not angry about this, you should be. So I'm going to go through and just read some of the things and share some thoughts with you on it. So he just talks first about just how he ended up getting these text messages, or these being involved in this group chat, and he was thinking, hey, no, is this real or not? So I'm not going to read through all that. I'll just, oh, wait. So, yeah, I'm not going to read all of this because you can go through ahead and, you know, like read it on your own. I don't want to read the whole article, but this is where it starts really heating up. Okay. So the principals had apparently assembled, and all 18 individuals were listed as members of this group, including various National Security Council officials, Steve Witkoff, President Trump's Middle East and Ukraine negotiator, Susan Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff, and someone identified only as SM, which I took to stand for Stephen Miller. I appear on my own screen only as JG. And based on what SM said, yeah, I think it's the vamp. I think it's Stephen Miller. I think it's pretty obvious, and I think anybody that reads it would think so. So after receiving the Waltz text related to the Houthi PC small group, I consulted a number of colleagues. We discussed the possibility that these texts were part of a disinformation campaign. It was like so egregious that he actually, his first thought was not somebody could be this stupid. His first thought was somebody setting me up. And if you remember back in 2000, I think it was the 2000 election, when they set up the 60 Minutes guy with a fake story on Bush's AWOL, and then basically got him off of, was it Mike Wallace, I think? Anyway, they got him run off of 60 Minutes by setting up, the fake story. So there's this history, and Goldberg probably knows about that, so he had a very skeptical response initially. I had very strong doubts that this text group was real, because I could not believe that the national security leadership of the United States would communicate on Signal about imminent war plans. I also could not believe that the national security advisor to the president would be so reckless as to include the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic in such discussions with senior U.S. officials. So some of the people that were involved, I'm looking at another monitor here. I wrote them down here. Pete Hegsbeth, J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, Stephen Miller, pretty much the real President of the United States. He's the one that really determines everything, and it's not Donald Trump. Don't worry. I mean, worry, but Michael Waltz, Tulsi Gabbard, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, and Susan Wiles. So Marco Rubio, these are all pretty much cabinet level positions, except for Susie Wiles and Stephen Miller. They don't need congressional approval, but Susie Wiles is the chief of staff, and Stephen Miller, as I said, is probably, and when you're talking about actual authority and power, he's probably the biggest one on there. So, okay. At this point, a fascinating policy discussion commenced. Well, actually, maybe I should just read it. At 8:05 on Friday, March 14th, Michael Waltz texted the group, "Team, you should have a statement of conclusions with taskings per the president's guidance. High side inboxes." High side in government parlance refers to classified computer and communication system. So this was delivered from the president on that system, in the high side system. But then they went to Signal to communicate it. And we'll after I'm done looking at this, I'll look at another article with you and show you exactly why communicating through this on Signal is extremely dangerous. State and DOD, we developed this suggested notification list for regional allies and partners. Joint Staff is sending this as this AM, a more specific sequence of events in the coming days, and we will work with DOD to ensure COS, OVP, and POTUS are brief. I don't know what COS or OVP are, but I don't care. At this point, a fascinating policy discussion commenced. The account labeled J.D. Vance responded at 8:16. So the Vice President of the United States is sitting there in this group with a reporter saying, "Team, I am out for a day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a big mistake." Vance was indeed in Michigan that day. The Vance account goes on to state, 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez, 40% of European trade does. There is a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this is, as President said, to send a message. And so, there's this toxic hatred that this administration has of Europe, of Western Europe, of our allies, of Canada, of Western Europe, of basically everyone that's in NATO, and of NATO itself. And so Vance is sitting there saying, well, why should we do something to help Europe? The Vance account then goes on to make a noteworthy statement, considering that the Vice President has deviated publicly from Trump's position on virtually any issue. I am not. So he's, makes you wonder, doesn't it? What else is Vance disagreeing with privately? Is he the voice of Project 2025? Does Trump know that he's disagreeing privately? And if Trump does know that he's disagreeing privately, is that why he's not endorsing Vance for presidential run in 2028? Or is it because Trump plans to run in 2028? Anyway, let's set all that aside. The Vance account then goes on to make a noteworthy statement considering that the vice president has not deviated publicly from Trump's position on virtually any issue. I am not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There is a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I am willing to support the consensus of the team and to keep these concerns to myself, but there is a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. So, there were a couple of people that agreed with him, and then Hegsbeth chimes in, the Secretary of Defense, I understand your concerns and fully support your raising with POTUS important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. Economy, Ukraine, peace, Gaza, etc. I think message is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on one, Biden failed, and two, Iran funded. So, just not talking about anything, important. They're talking about how to sell this, not whether they should do it, and just Biden. Like that's their everything is just Biden, and so somehow this is justified because Biden. They were attacking Iran during the election, in case you don't remember, or for attacking the Houthis in the election, but now it's Biden didn't attack them enough. The Hegsbeth message goes on to say waiting a few weeks or a month does not fundamentally change the calculus. So he's saying that it's not going to be any different in a month, so there's no point in waiting. Two immediate risks on waiting. This leaks and we look indecisive. Two, Israel takes action. And this is what I should have highlighted this. He's worried about it leaking as they're sitting there chatting on private phones in public on Signal about it. Or two, Israel takes action. Or Gaza ceasefire falls apart and we don't start this on our own terms. We can manage both. We were prepared to execute, and if I had a final go or no go vote, I believe we should. This is not about the Houthis. I see it as two things: restoring freedom of navigation, a core national interest, and two, reestablish deterrence, which Biden cratered. Neither of those things are true. But we can easily pause, and if we do, I will do all we can to enforce 100% OPSEC, Operation Security. I welcome other thoughts. A few minutes later, Michael Waltz account posted a lengthy note about why trade figures and the limited capability of European navies. Whether it's now or several weeks from now, it will have to be the United States that reopens these shipping lanes per the president's request. We are... Excuse me, got something in my throat here. Per the president's request, we are working with DoD and state to determine how to compile the costs associated and levy them on the Europeans. The account identified as J.D. Vance addressed a message at 8:45 to Pete Hegseth. If you do it, let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. The venom. The vice president of the United States, it says, I hate bailing Europe out again. I hate helping our allies. Why should we help our allies? That's the vice president of the United States. And this is why I think you need to read the article, because it's not just about the national security risk and stuff like that. It's the venom these people have for our allies. The ignorance that they have for the value of our allies is just astounding. These are stupid, evil people running our country, putting American soldiers' life at risk. J.D. Vance is a veteran. And he doesn't give one shit about the lives of our soldiers. The user identified as Hegsbeth responded 3 minutes later. VP, I fully share your loathing of Europe. Freeloading. It's pathetic. But Mike is correct. We are the only ones on the planet on our side of the ledger who can do this. At this point, the previously sent silent SM, or as I refer to him as, Count Miller, joined the conversation. As I heard it, the president was clear, green light, but we soon make clear to Egypt and Europe what we expect in return. So now they're talking about, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do this thing without consulting Europe first, and then we're going to demand that they compensate us for what we did that they may not have even wanted done. So anyway, this is screenshots of everything. At 11:44, the account labeled Peter Hegsbeth posted in Signal as a team update. And this is really significant because the stuff we've already read, none of that is classified. I will not quote from this update or from certain other subsequent texts. The information contained in them, if they had been read by an adversary of the United States, could conceivably have been used to harm American military agents personnel, particularly in the broader Middle East Central Command's area of responsibility. What I will say, in order to illustrate the shocking recklessness of this Signal conversation, is that Hegsbeth post contained operational details of forthcoming strikes on Yemen, including information about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and attacking sequence. Now, the most shocking thing about this is not the first time that someone from the Trump administration shared battle plans with a writer. Because remember, Donald Trump did it too. The only person to reply to the update from Hegsbeth was the person identified as the vice president. So the vice president did not say, hey, dude, why are you sharing battle plans on Signal, on private devices? He says, I will say a prayer for a victory. And two others added their little prayer emojis. So anyway, that's all I'm going to read from the article. I really hope if you've watched this far that you go ahead, you read the article. I'll post a link to a gift article so that you can read it if you don't have a subscription to The Atlantic. But I really think everybody should read this article. And now I want to go into why isn't this? So this article here it's a political article. I'll post a link in the description too. It's so unbelievable. Cyber world stunned over war planners using Signal. So I just wanted to, see how secure is Signal, and it's fairly secure for a social media app, to be honest. Not national security secure. So this is a good way to put it. I guess Signal is a few steps above leaving a copy of your war plan at the Chinese embassy, but it's far below the standards required for discussing any elements of a war plan, said Mark Montgomery, Senior Director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. The app also includes a function that deletes all messages from a conversation within a set time frame, adding an additional layer of protection. But experts agree that it shouldn't be used by government officials as an alternative to communicating through more secure, sanctioned government communications, which Signal is not. The former White House official pointed out that members of Trump's cabinet, including the Vice President, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, among others, were likely using personal devices, since in most cases, Signal cannot be downloaded to official federal devices. So how do I know they were using private devices? Because they couldn't be using federal devices. And here's the thing. Their private devices do not have the same security that federal devices do. So their personal phones are all hackable and quite possibly hacked. And it's highly likely that the foreign intelligence services are sitting on their phones watching them type the shit out, the former White House official warned. And it's true. That's not being hyperbolic. That's being accurate. And the fact, and then maybe I forgot to highlight it, but there's also the possibility that they're at the mall and they're sitting there sending this stuff, and then they lose their phone, and it's all available. This is just a reckless disregard for national security. It's a reckless disregard for the lives of troops, and you have people like Brian Crenshaw going on saying, "Oh, we need to move past this." You have people like the press secretary, whose name I block out all the time because she's just so annoying. But, she's sitting there saying that really it's the media's fault, and you don't have what you don't have. And this is what pisses me off the most. You don't have a single prominent Republican coming out and saying, this is wrong. The same people that were complaining and just endlessly, still to this day, talk about Hillary Clinton's emails. In fact, the press secretary even brought up Hillary Clinton's emails. Well, if you think it's hypocritical to complain about this and not Hillary Clinton's emails, it's hypocritical for you to complain about Hillary Clinton's emails and not this, because this is worse. There was actual classified information discussed on here with the people that are entrusted to run our national security. Every single person on this should be fired. And that includes the vice president. This is appalling, and it is shocking, and yes, in some ways, it's hilarious. It is so stupid, it's funny, but it's also so stupid, it's scary. So I just had to come on and vent about that and share some of the funny stuff, because I feel like if you can't laugh at it, you're going to go insane over it. But if you watch this far, thanks for watching. And don't forget to click like and subscribe right down there. How do I do this? There you go. Anyway, you guys, I'll see you around on social media. I'll talk to you later.